Hello, and welcome back to another Stick It Down challenge. This month, it's all about hearts. I decided to pull out this old background stamp from Stampin' Up. This Heart Swirls is a fun background that can be so many different colors. I decided to go ahead and emboss it in white today, and one way I like to stamp backgrounds is upside down using a brayer so that I can get a good impression of the stamp and not miss any of the edges. Then I went ahead and used just white embossing powder, and that way I can add my color to the background and the white will still show through. I decided to use a lovely group of pinks from Stampin' Up. The pinks I used are Petal Pink, Polished Pink, Flirty Flamingo, and Lovely Lipstick. Some of these colors have been discontinued, but there's always new ones that replace it. I started in the center with the lightest one, the Petal Pink, and it's barely there, but I just kept on adding color to get a little bit darker shade. I didn't want to go too firm because I didn't want to get any hard edges, and I really was going with a very soft hand, just circling out because I wanted just a nice lovely soft center and then a nice darker edge around the outside, and I kept going over it and over it and over it until I got the shades that I wanted. Of course, after I finished my shading, I realized that the paper was slightly too big and I needed to cut it down to the 4 by 5 1/4 size so that I could have an outside border on the card. And so I had to trim it down and then go back over the edges one more time just so that I have a more finished and polished look. Then, using the same shades of color from Stampin' Up, I used the matching paper and cut out 12 hearts, 3 in each color. I laid these out so that I could get a nice pattern that wasn't have any of the colors repeating too closely, and once I got them laid out how I wanted to, I realized that I didn't want them to be quite so flat, so I cut out 12 more hearts just in white cardstock and glued those to the back so that it just gave a little bit of lift off of the page. After getting my first bottom row of hearts laid out, I ended up using my T-ruler to get the other rows of hearts as straight as possible. I ended up getting the first and second row further to the top than I had wanted, and so I did have a section in the middle that was kind of more empty, and I would have preferred, according to the sketch, to have maybe the third and fourth row more separate so that I could have the sentiment there, but it actually ended up working out and I think it looks fine and you would never know. I felt like the hearts were too plain and bare, so I used my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen and added a whole bunch of shimmer to every one of the hearts. And of course, I had to use the sentiment love for this card. I got out some white glossy paper from Stampin' Up, added some double-sided adhesive paper to it, and used a Sizzix love word die, and that way my love will be white and shiny without being shimmery, and it actually is quite similar to the white embossing powder in the background. One thing I find frustrating with word dies is that the little holes tend to leave little bumps on the paper. Do you find this to be a problem also? How do you solve this issue? I tried to roll it out with my little brayers and stuff and try to smush down those little bumps, but sometimes that doesn't work so well and you can still see them. Here I'm using a different Sizzix die with just letters, and I'm using some black cardstock with some double-sided adhesive sheets again so that the letters are easy to stick down. I cut out YOU and I put them on the card, and for some reason this black paper just bugs me. When reviewing the video, I actually don't mind how the black looks on camera, but in person for some reason it was just sticking out too much. It just looked like a sore thumb, and so I ended up taking the black off and using white letters instead. So when you get to the end of the video, check out how I changed the U and tell me what you think. Should I have kept the black lettering, or do you like the change that I made? Thank you for watching my literal interpretation of this month's sketch. Please go check out the challenge at the Stick It Down blog. The link will be in the description box box below, and I would love it if you would subscribe or like or comment on my video. I do these because I love card making, but I love hearing from everyone who watches. My final touches to this card was to add some bling from This Calls for Confetti. And if you like watching this video, I would be thrilled if you would also choose to watch the creative interpretation video that will be coming out shortly.